The first police officer ever killed in the line of duty in Regina, Canada, get your giggles out, well, it's still to this day an unsolved mystery. Hello, true crimerers. This is another Coldest Cases by Canadian Province, and today we're going to Saskatchewan. And this is the case of Constable George Anthony Lenhard. Viewer discretion is advised. I'm so sorry if you guys can hear the sound in the background. I'm in Arizona and it's already 100 degrees in April, so it's hot, so I have the fan on. Also, real quick, make sure you give this video a good old like. I know it's hard to like the story itself because it's awful, but you're giving a like to the storyteller. Just think of it that way. So today we're going to Regina, which is in Saskatchewan. I know some of you were gonna giggle, but stop it, grow up, all right? We're here to tell a story. This is a very old one. This is from August 6th, 1933. George Anthony Lenhard had just celebrated his 28th birthday. He was a constable in the Regina police force. Well, on the evening of August 6, 1933, he was doing his rounds, and this was in, I guess, like a warehouse district, where it was just warehouses and, like, fields, and there wasn't much else out there. The area was so large that he had to basically cover that area while riding a bicycle. There is, I guess, a set of tracks, train tracks, that runs next to this building that was called the Canadian Liquid Air Plant. George was on his bike going past the building, and near the tracks behind the building, he saw three men, and they appeared to be kind of like out of sorts. Like it didn't look like they belonged there, that they were doing something not right. So he would take his bike and go right up to them. Basically what happens next is from the account of an eyewitness. Two eyewitnesses, actually. Teenagers Donald Campbell and Artis Aney, I guess was his girlfriend or a female friend of his. The two of them weren't like up and close to the situation, they were pretty far away, but they could see enough. As Constable Lenhard approached the men, the witnesses said they heard George say, stop to the three men. The witnesses then said they heard one of the men say something along the lines of no, or something just like a single word, like in refute of what the constable was asking them to do. And then one of the men lifted a gun. This man yelled very loudly, and the teenagers heard this very clearly. They said the phrase, "Stick 'em up." George was, at this point, off of his bike, but his hands were still holding on to the handlebars so the bike wouldn't fall over. The teenagers said they heard George say, "What?" to the man who lifted the gun, and then a gunshot rang out. And it's believed this was a revolver. They're not 100% positive, but that's the weapon they think was being used. And then George kind of reacts, and he begins to back up towards the building. The witnesses said they saw the guy with the gun still kind of following him, and then they saw George trying to reach something under his police officer, his tunic, likely his gun, but he didn't get it in time. He didn't even get it at all, because they would find out later he never even fired a shot. Then two more shots rang out. The witnesses then said they saw the three men run away in a hurry, and the teenager Donald, he ran towards, I guess, Winnipeg Street, where he knew for a fact another officer was. So he bolted there to get the attention of this officer, while apparently George Lenhard is still alive, and he is dragging himself and crawling, I guess, towards the building, and there's the big roll-up door, I guess, is kind of partially open, and so he manages to roll underneath it, where one of the workers kind of sees him and says, "Oh my God," and the worker goes towards him, and no, I don't know why the teenagers didn't go run to him first, I'm not sure, but the worker says that Constable George Lenhard said two words, but he didn't know what those words were because they were so, just garbled. They were just very muffled, and unfortunately, George Lenhard he died. This all happened just shortly before 10 p.m. that evening. The coroner confirmed that he did in fact have 3 gunshot wounds. The funeral for Constable Lenhard was held on August 9th, 1933, and, a lot of people showed up to pay their respects. Regina police, they wanted to know who the hell did this. I mean, one of their own was gunned down, and the 2 teenagers gave the absolute best descriptions they could possibly give, but they were still pretty far back. The guy that actually shot George, they said was tall, like pretty tall, but also super heavy set. There was times where they thought that this may have been the work of some local gangs, and actually there was I guess a gang from the United States that had actually originated in Saskatchewan, but then did all of their crimes in the United States, and it's believed they may have fled back up to Saskatchewan around this time, and they thought, well, maybe it was them. But then the descriptions the 2 teenagers gave didn't match any of the known affiliates of this gang. Police did get a couple of tips. One resident said that around 8:40 p.m. on August 6th, they think they bumped into a man who looked just like the description the witnesses gave that eventually shot George Lenhard, but nothing ever came from that. And then this was a popular time for transients in the area, like a lot of them. So they thought, oh, this could have been a transient, and now that these people are probably long gone. But they couldn't determine that. Were they train hoppers? Don't know. It sounded almost like they were caught in the act of robbing something, but when they, that area, they're like, well, what exactly were they even trying to steal from here? And they really couldn't determine that either. So it's so very, very unclear what those 3 men were even doing in that spot, and then what led to them shooting a cop. Did George Lenhard see something truly bad or at least illegal, and that's why the men reacted and shot him? They have really no legitimate kind of theory here. A year or so after the murder in April of 1934, they did bring a suspect in, a man named Matt Kowalchuk, who I guess was a prominent train robber. I forgot, this is during the time where train robbers were an actual thing. And they actually were searching for him for a while because they thought that this guy, because they knew about him, may have been responsible. But eventually they're just there was nothing they could link him to the murders. They did not charge him with anything to do with this murder. They dedicated, a memorial to Constable George Lenhard. The one thing they haven't been able to do is solve his murder. And it is 2023 now. We're talking, this is almost 90 years ago. The people who did this are definitely dead. There's just, unless it was a 2-year-old and they're 92 now, but the killers are gone. They're gone forever, and they were never caught. It doesn't mean that they necessarily can't solve this, but, also in 1933, collecting DNA evidence wasn't even remotely close to a thing they even knew about. Collecting anything physical like that, the best they could do is fingerprints, but there wasn't any of those. There really wasn't anything. They really had to rely on eyewitness testimony. They had it just didn't produce a suspect. I guess in 2005, Saskatchewan police were like, let's just try, right? And so I guess they found a photo of these 3 men from that time era, and I guess one of them was holding a revolver or some kind of gun. It appeared they were almost joking and doing a mocking type robbery scenario. And I guess there was a note with this photo that implied that it was rumored that one of these men had talked about having committed the murder of George Lenhard, but it's kind of unclear as to where that information came from and really where the photo came from. I'm showing you the photo, but it's, I don't know if they identified these men or not, but like I said, if it was those 3 men, they are definitely dead. They won't ever face justice for this, and no one will. And honestly, most of his, the family he had at that time, they're probably gone too, unfortunately. And so this is just one of those cases where there's not going to be an answer. There's not going to be closure. It's not going to be justice. There's not going to be anything. They got away with cold-blooded murder. But you never know. They could always find something to just say we know who did it. But that's the best they will ever be able to do, is just say we think we may know who did this, but they'll never be able to even confirm it. And it's cases like that. It's really sad, and there are so many of them out there throughout the entire world where people just blatantly got away with it and got to live their lives. Hopefully their lives were living hell. One could hope. That's actually it for this case, True Crime Maroonies. I hope you found it interesting. If you have tripped, fallen, and stumbled into my channel, hi, I'm Mike. I tell 4 true crime stories here a week on YouTube. So please subscribe, give the video a like I said earlier. And yeah, so that would be great if you did. I also tell a story on Facebook, on Instagram, and I tell a few stories throughout the week over on TikTok. So my links to all my socials are below. Feel free to follow me wherever you like, or don't. It's up to you. But that's it for this video. True Crime Maroonies. Mike, are you wearing the same exact short? Are you wearing the same shirt you were wearing in the video you made yesterday? Maybe. What's it to you? Why are you asking me that? Don't be judgy. Maybe I'm filming multiple videos on the same day because I have no life. And I don't do anything. This is it. This is all I do. So maybe I just film horrible story after horrible story after horrible story in one day, and I'm too lazy to change my clothing. I'm fat. I don't fit into a lot of things, you know? So what am I going to do? Why am I yelling at all my subscribers? I love you guys. This wasn't a proper goodbye. But deal with it, suckers.